In Google, we usually receive questions and usually you answer them, and now it's the other way around. Meneer Pim, how shall I call you? Whatever you'd like. I'm going to take a seat. We don't know each other that well. People know you, but I do have a question. How would you describe yourself in internet terms? How often do you use it? What are your favorite apps? What kind of sites do you visit? For me, it's especially accumulate news, accumulate information. Nu.nl, for instance, to buy stuff on Amazon, on bol.com. But in my work, I'm talking all day long. So the internet use that I have is very, very low. Usually, it's lower than average. It's about looking very quickly to see what's happening. For instance, to see how people are reacting in the media. I'm looking at some sites to get an atmosphere, get a feel of what people think. But in my profession as a politician, it's not relevant unless it's being talked about in the mass media. Internet is a very limited role in the politics. It's not important for me until it's in the mass media. I have the honor to talk about what people were talking about before the break with some entrepreneurs that gave their image of how Holland will look in 25 years. How do you see the Netherlands in 25 years? What we're going to earn money with? What we're going to earn money with, I can't say that as a politician because I have to avoid that you're going to promote one sector or another. Singapore's done this and made it vulnerable because if you have it wrong, then you're in the wrong sector. Abstractly, I would like to be able to land on Schiphol in 10 years' time and see that a lot of people have started their own companies and taken risks. Normally, when a company goes bankrupt, people don't say, well, you shouldn't have started your own company. But if your company goes bankrupt a lot, you should probably wonder if this is right for you. But that you don't bail out after one failure. It's a different culture. I would like this different culture. I would like a culture with less hierarchy. This is what I'd wish. What I like the most is I'm in politics. I can see where people can get more creative and develop themselves within the borders of the law. I would like to make sure that people can develop their talents. You just mentioned something that was just talked about, failure, that we acknowledge this. Another thing, American says, at least you tried, and here we laugh at that person. It's such a culture difference. It's just been mentioned, yes. Another thing is funding, financial funding. Somebody said in the internet, you should do it yourself. And others say there's very little risk capital. Does the government have a role? Well, we weren't talking about banks, but venture capital. I know. But I think the government has a very limited role. From economic affairs, we have a few regulations. We have to be careful to, for example, if you help a company that just starts up and need a bit of a push, for instance, subsidies, no subsidies. But I'd like to do this thing where to buy in.
I'll get your money back and put it, invest in other company. And the third thing is that you can do that you start in a certain sector. Other than if you have to make a growth spurt, you have such a phase, and it differs per branch. So and roughly we do this, but we had about 100 rules, and now we have just a handful. And ultimately, with aim, well, you say you have a growth spurt. Well, the government says, well, only if it's very innovative, that the government really says, if we don't support this, it will not just end up into a phase and it can earn its own money. Every other company needs to get its own money, and see, we had it with the family companies and the like Dutch Blokker and the Pomp and the SHV, and they had started up because they were willing to put venture capital in the market. So despite the providers of venture capital and the bank, So they are more of that kind of. The government only has a role if it's very innovative. This is just from the university, Twente University, or from the Eindhoven University. It needs to get a chance, and otherwise, this will not happen if we cannot promote this and support this. And then it has to be on its own as quickly as possible. Something different that you said about innovation. We had a panel discussion. What should be the role of government with respect to innovation? So those top sectors, you have existing parties. Per definition, these are not the new parties that you have at a table to discuss. How can you drive this participation? And you take away money from research. How do you look upon those top sectors? Well, I think top sectors are that sector because they have a growth and more than average growth. So I share this worry because that you support the existing companies, not the challenging companies and the startups. So within the top sector, not all the existing interests are promoted. Hans Bieshavertz did it in those top sectors. Maxime Verhagen did it in the former administration, to give all those challenges space to growth. Research is vital. So I'm convinced that we have earned a lot of money here in the Netherlands that can be marketed. If you only are involved with this and not with fundamental research that may generate money and capital within 10 to 15 years, and then we just slaughter the hen with the golden eggs, and then we slaughter the hen and we don't find the golden eggs anymore. It's because you need to apply this, and so the Netherlands are very good. So the combination between the large research universities and the NGOs and other institutions, and despite also the whole network around our 8 academic hospitals that provide and support a lot of companies that arise from that. So we are very good at that. So with respect to the ICT, we are in the top 4 after Singapore, Sweden and Finland. So we do well. So of course, government should not obstruct that and hinder that, but we have to nurture that, and not all too much conferences and rules and regulations. A very good and very long answer. We only have a couple of minutes list, just a few more. Well, questions are there. One other. You still teach on a Friday morning, or your science, technology, and so much. So it's nerdy. You are a teacher, professor. I teach society, and so at secondary school. So this class tomorrow they have this great techniques, because the former class they have passed examinations, and they have this technique that we can even teach a school in a classroom in Meppel, somewhere else in the Netherlands. Is it nerds? No. Maybe you look nerdy. So how do you think? What Daniel Hoper said here. Actually, every subject, there should be an ICT component part of it in every subject that is being taught. So, well, we are here to do something. Of course, you can do something about it yourselves. One of the problems that we have, that Dutch entrepreneurs, Dutch companies are not linked to education that much. So we can arrange for that. So if the companies would be involved and you could do so, well, I could have looked to see what is the policy. I'll have to look into it. I'll look at it. Of course, there is some policy, yes, and it will only be put in practice if you, from practice, enter those schools. Not like me every week for 2 hours, but just sometimes a year. One of the professors said all those ICT solutions, like etc., can promote and double our growth. It is about radical changes in employability. Say for taxi drivers, have a cab and then have a mobile restaurant, and so that you can have. So you see different people. What is the role of government or from this administration with respect to this unbelievable transition to facilitate that? Well, I had this in Bayern. I was there. Very with respect to the ICT field, of course, socially it's quite conservative. We could agree with. it's like laptops and lederhosen, so to say. What is the role of the authority and government? Nothing else than just book those rooms. A minister is coming there, and so state secretary, somebody's coming. Most of the people enjoy that, and of course, so you use the government as initiator and so that you have venture capital companies and education are coming together. So that's the role of the government. So we should organize these events much more, because I really believe in it. In this nice office that I have, of course, a lot of good people enter, also wise people. So, but there are these kinds of events that you create ideas, because we were also glad you were here, like Google, and have the government says it's so classical. No, this is very old. How? What? Internet. I don't hope it's mentioned in the government policy. Yes, so you just confirmed it's important. What are the things that you say, okay, this is something that we're going to do about, going to work about more? Tomorrow I'm not going to do anything at all. I hope we will do it together, because this is also such a classic thing. What is the government going to do? Oh, it's bad weather, and what is the government going to do about it? So we have to agree here today that we are going to do this together. So this is something what Daniel said about ICT and education, also with respect to the role of venture capital. I was said just about the family businesses. It was an eye-opener. We really have to make this known, that not only to the venture capitalists, there is also a third flow of money, that we have to do this together, this kind of intervention. I don't think about those to-do lists. This is something, and Mark Rutte will solve it. This is not something that will be the thing to do. Well, thank you very much for being here, Mark Rutte.